Okay, well, hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. You need to give yourselves all kind of coming in. You got beers? Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thank you very much all for coming to the second check-in for this year's Design Rumble, for the Design Festival Block Party that will be happening next month, which is kind of scary, but it's good. We have a lot of people here tonight representing some of the groups who've participated in the Rumble process, where we have community partners and contractors and local designers who are coming up with concepts together with some of the folks that have actually also been proposing other programs that will also live on the block party in one big happy family. So we wanted to share everything and where we're at, and kind of we're going to do like a Pechakucha style thing this evening where each group will get a chance to present. We're also going to do some kind of housekeeping about what is going to be involved in the actual weekend and the setup, the actual event, the teardown, and sort of some of that good stuff. Before we get too deep into it, thank you very much to DLR Group, who is hosting this evening graciously. Restrooms are in the back. You sort of go that way, you take a left, and they're in there. Beers and snacks. I think there is more beer somewhere, and there's wine. Okay, there's more beer. Good. That's Hilliard's. I've got to thank Hilliard's because they brought us beer. And to our lovely groups that are also helping us out. Number of activity partners who you'll hear from tonight. We have Skate Like a Girl. We have Feet First, Market Share, the Public Market, Allycat Aikens, and then Taskar, Center for Accessible Technology, as well as the contractors who have really stepped up this year to help us out to build some of these pieces. Hoffman, Howard S. Wright, Lisa Crutcher-Lewis, Salin, not quite, maybe, Mallet, and of course our latest and our newest and shiniest, because they're new, PL Concord Construction as well, who've really stepped in to help us out. So thank you very much to you guys. LMN and DLR are sort of obviously helping to host some of these events. And with that, I want to call to AIA Seattle and also Design Public, and to Susan Surface, who is our director of the programs. She's the boss. So here you go, boss.
No bosses, no masters. All right, I think I'll need the next slide, please. Oh, I think this might not be my turn, although I can certainly talk about the things I was going to talk about. Okay, well, I'll just give a general introduction without slides because they're not really visual things that I'm going to talk about, and it's really just about the approach that we're bringing to this process and how we're working with the block party. So there's just going to be a few things to keep in mind when we're going to be looking for really the structural integrity of your installation. So if our guest structural engineers say this is fine or this could fall down and hurt people, you will be required to make it not fall down and hurt people. We're going to be looking for things like accessibility. Are young people, older people, people using mobility devices, people who may not read or speak English, etc., going to be able to interact with your installation and get as much out of it as people who do have access to all of those tools? And we're also going to I mean, it's maybe hard to communicate in a form like this, but we're also going to be hoping that your process is equitable and shared between the design teams, the contractors, and the structural engineering partners, as well as any community partners, nonprofits that you might be working with in the case of the Rumble installations. So that's pretty much it. Another note that maybe we'll get to in later communications is the logistical setup of the block, how we are treating people who normally occupy Occidental Mall and Pioneer Square, making sure that it's welcoming and open to people who use that as their living space and all that. So with that, I guess I'll just give it to Trevor to explain some of the logistics about the block party itself. And Trevor's also our master of technology, so.
So for those that came in late, it'll be on YouTube as well. I think I sent a link to everybody. So that way, if you miss something or we talk too fast. And of course, we'll send a PDF of all this stuff once it's locked down, but this is to allow you to ask some questions. So for everybody for the block party, it should be everybody in the room here. The day we're building everything is Friday, September 11th from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Let's go ahead and skip to the next here. So we've broken it out, and it's same as with the map, into a few categories. There's the Rumble teams, the installation teams, and the booths. For Rumble teams, we're asking that you bring your stuff. And the Rumble is just these 5 groups. So if you don't see your name on the list, you're not part of the Rumble. From 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., these teams only will be allowed to bring a vehicle onto Occidental Mall and unload. That's only because they have a contractor partner. They're given windows for that. Obviously, it doesn't mean you have to come then, but that's the only time you'll be allowed to bring a vehicle. So if you miss that window, you're going to be bringing it in from the street. Let's go ahead and skip to the next. For everybody else here, that's anyone, if you count as an installation, you're in a circle on that map. The times we're asking you to do is 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That doesn't mean that that's the only time you can be there and build. That's when we want you, if you're bringing a vehicle to drop stuff off on the curb, bring it then. This is to avoid traffic jams and congestion. There's a lot of construction stuff around there. We don't really have any technical loading areas. We're going to be cheating the law on this the whole way through. So try to keep it to 5 minutes. Try to just unload it, put it in your spot, and then come back and put it all together. Having said that, we've just found out there's going to be food trucks in the park on that day, and they fill up most of the park. That affects 3 different teams, my own team, sales designers, Weber Thompson, and For Culture. All 3 of those will need to wait until 3 p.m. to bring stuff by, but that should be all right because they're on the far end, the north end of the park. And then booths, I don't think there's anybody here with a booth, but that's if you're in a canopy of those 10 by 10 squares. They'll be coming from 3 to close, so that's why we're trying to push the installations earlier. So when all of these groups come, there's going to be a lot of cars and things. We're not in their way. We've already got our stuff laid down, and they can bring their smaller items in, set up their tents. Same rules apply. So here's the site plan of the street, and this is just for build day, so everybody sort of understands what we're talking about. These areas in blue are where it's possible to sort of pull up to the curb and unload. Jackson Street's off limits. That's just for the Rumble teams in the morning. You can come in there, but because there's the light rail stop there and things, there's just no way to stop on Jackson. So you need to come down Main from either direction or come down Washington from either direction and unload from the curb and in. We've also been able to get away with in the past using the alleys. So if it really gets kind of a big jam and you're real stressed out, you can pull over there and sort of temporarily get your stuff out of your vehicle. That's also showing where all those food trucks will be. Well, 5 on Friday. For the festival and for that same day, now that parking's become an issue, this is a list of the parking places that are nearby. There's 2 within a block. And obviously the CenturyLink Stadium will have plenty of parking. If you can park somewhere and just cart it over, that's going to be a lot easier on everybody. And this, of course, will be in a PDF. So here is the hopefully final site plan. We have 3 groups. We're still in flux, but this is pretty close to the end. A lot of you have been moved from that initial one you've seen. So make sure you take a look before you leave tonight to know where you're at. We're going to be chalking these numbers out on the ground, and our volunteers will have the same type of map. So everybody should know where they're going to be on the day of. We've lost some and we've added some, so it's gotten quite a bit bigger. And what we found out now is we are going to be able to have food trucks during the festival itself, which will help sort of add to the atmosphere. Those will be on the north end from 10 to 2, I think, something like that. And then in terms of music, we're still trying to figure that out on our end, but DSA, that's the Downtown Seattle Association, has their own program in the park, so there will be music there regardless, even if we sort of drop the ball on that. This is Occidental Mall. This is where most of you are. One new addition here, there's now construction on the street we're building on, so this area here will be a big fenced area. We've kind of fought with them to get it shrunk down to where it is, but that'll sort of just have to be what it is. So something to be aware of and something to have to move around a little bit here. With all these in the past, the rules, safety first, not just for the festival, but for this day, because the site basically becomes like a construction site. And with the exception of our contractors here, nobody else is really that versed in it. So you get into trouble, someone gets hurt, don't try to get a hold of Susan, Matt, or Paul or I, just call 911. Like, don't sort of think about it. We can keep going. This should be sort of obvious. And then in terms of if you have questions on the day of, and this is just for the day of, don't text them, don't email them to Matt, Paul, or I. We won't get them. Like, it's too chaotic. But if you call, we will answer the phone. So it usually happens, somebody's coming late, somebody's worried about where they are, and they email, and they'll never hear back. So if you call, we'll give you phone numbers in a PDF packet. I didn't want to put them up here because we're live streaming. That seemed bad at the last second. So you'll get those in a more discreet manner. All right, I think we're up next.
All right, so on to why we're here tonight. This is our second check-in. Last time we had a format where we were hoping for everybody to go over their design concepts, some of the progress of where they're at, and just have a chance for people to see what's going on within the block. Tonight's format is going to be similar to last time. We've got the Rumble installations. They're going to have 9 slides at 20 seconds, giving them about 3 minutes worth of presentation. On the side of the other installations that are on the block, we've given them 6 slides, 20 seconds, so about 2 minutes worth of presentation. We've got 40 seconds in between, so it'll pop up with who's coming up next. It'll give an overview of who the team is, so you'll have a chance to introduce yourself, introduce the team, thank any sponsors or whatever you want to do, but kind of it's your advantage. You get an extra 40 seconds to get up here quick, and if you need to say a lot of things, start right away. Go ahead. But the intent tonight is to show a little bit further in the development. We're hoping to hear and see a lot more about what the physical things are going to be, what the structure is going to be, how you're going to deal with some of the logistics of loading it onto site, making this modules or anything else that eases the fact that this is a 2-day installation and it has a quick turnaround time. So the more you can talk about those things, the more we can understand that, the better. We really want to understand safety. Trevor harped on it. I'm going to harp on it. Safety is important, structure is important, and design is important. So let's see what you guys have got. We're going to get started with the order. We've got Skate Like a Girl, AIGA Changemakers, H Square Designs, Allycat Aikens, and Pike Place Market, Maker's Arc, For Culture, Ashley, Miller Hayashi, Waterfront, Dimalanta. I might have said that a little bit wrong, but pretty good. Okay. Saucy Studio, Design Nerds, Smaller Smarter, Market Share, and Taskar. So kind of get a sense where you're at. Remember it. Your name will come up, so you have a chance to kind of get up here. But if we can get Skate Like a Girl to come on up, you guys are first.
Huh?
This is how you do it. Yeah.
All right, so this is Skate Like a Girl. I'm Rosie. We are working with a group that focuses on promoting changing the perception of skateboarding as a culture and trying to make it more inclusive and get everybody involved in it. And they focus on girls because they don't typically get into it. And they have women teachers and male teachers and boys and girls and moms and dads, and everybody's involved in it. So the Skate Like a Girl booth, we want to be really emblematic of that changing of the perception of culture by bringing in all the different elements of skateboarding, from the actual boards to all the other parts of it. So our initial sketches and a couple slides of recap were that we didn't want to build a ramp or something and have people like skateboarding around or doing anything dangerous. We wanted to be friendly and approachable. So we decided to focus on the three very first things that they do when they bring in any new skateboarder, which is the first three rules. Standing on the board, the drop down, which is where you take the board and you do this, and the tic-tac, which is where you do this on the board. They're all very safe and sane. They do them on the grass. Like there's no concrete or wood or anything involved. So we decided to build, this is our first round sketches. We decided to do something where it's the actual three first steps and the boards would be fixed to the ground, so you can only do those movements. And then the back would be a wheat paste wall, sticker, markers, so people can actually get involved in the culture, and we would have information about skateboarding and where you could find the parks. And then we would have plexiglass so people could look back and forth. What we ultimately decided on is a round approach so that people can see what's going on from all different angles. We still have the three tic-tac drop down standing on the board, and they're fixed here. And then on the inside of the walls, we have the instructional panels. This is our 3D renderer, just threw stuff up there. It's not actually going to look like that. You have a handlebar so people can hold on, and the boards are actually fixed to the ground, and you have instructional. How do you do this? Why? How do you do it safely? And then all three walls are connected by a bar up top that has skateboards actually in the positions of different, more advanced moves. I think we might actually have skateboard seats in the middle too that he didn't add into that. So they're freestanding walls, but they should be pretty structurally sound. Our contractor's not here, but they could talk about it. They're like totally confident. They're like, yeah, we can absolutely do that. You just round it and you get recycled stuff. This is this look and feel we're going for. And you can just look at that while I talk. Everything that we're going to use is going to be recycled from construction sites, which is sort of part of the skate culture too. You just grab what you can and you make it into something. We're going to try to get recycled paint and just work with that and splatter it and paint it and collage it so that people come into it with already a pre-collaged, pre-distressed looking thing that they can just keep adding to. So we would have buckets of paint, and on the outside, so the inside has the instructional stuff. The outside, we're going to have sticker wall, wheat paste, markers. People can just throw whatever they want up there. We have a photo op wall, so people can just take photos in front of the fun, cool painted stuff. And then the last one would be information about Skate Like a Girl and a map of all the Seattle parks, skate parks. That's it.
AIGA Changemakers, do you want to come on up? Just going to keep moving, so we're going to go more quick.
So, perfect. So AIGA, the Professional Association for Designers, launched its Changemakers series this year, and that is dedicated to pairing visual communication design folks with various nonprofits and startup organizations that are focused on this year's theme, which had to do with food and food equity. So our approach this year is to take these nonprofits, these startups organizations, and showcase the work that the designers have done with them. Specifically, we're going to focus on the problems around food equity, the organizations that are solving those problems, and the people that it affects. I know this is kind of slow into there. But we have a group of, we have two independent consultants from an architectural background. We have production designer from Gray Pants. We've got an exhibit designer from Experimental Music Project, and a visual designer from Pacific Market International. This is kind of the guidelines here. We've focused on this one since I've sent in the presentation. It's more structurally sound. We feel like we can pull it off. It's pixels. It's coming together. We're going to display the content of the organizations and the people that it affects. We'll use kind of a pixel fill coming up to it and signage in the back to spread the word about these organizations, what they're doing, and the people that they're affecting. I could talk longer, but it says it all right there. It's all, yeah, it's graphic artists. It's all modular. It's going to have a wood frame. The goal is that it can exist in other locations after all this is done. And it's all cardboard and wood, basically. So we're hoping it doesn't rain, but tarps, you know, we've got some backup plans. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know how to do it without sawdust, and that would be unfair. Because I'm sure it's going to be beautiful.
It's butt boards for the elderly and infirm.
So these are going to be scattered near one of our proposed busking areas, sort of in front of where the staircase is in Occidental Mall. And these are, I think, our only seating elements at the moment, so they'll get used. What just happened?
All right. Well, with that one, Allycat Aikens is going to be coming up next. So, do we have a tech? Okay. We're going to have a little technical pause, break, interlude, whilst we get it figured out. I'm going to pass it on to Allycat Aikens. So, how are we doing?
Okay. So we're representing Allycat Acres and Pike Place Market. And kind of our overarching idea is about urban farming and trying to show that this is something that can be done in a city type of area, and that it's can really be accessible if you have the right resources and if you're just thoughtful about the way you approach the problem. We're partnered with Howard S. Wright, and then these are the rest of our team members who didn't show up. Except Francesca's here. She's our structural, who's been helping us out a lot with some of our different elements that we're working with. So kind of the overall plan is has three elements. It's really these planter beds, this mobile tool shed in the back, and kind of this overarching canopy that kind of ties those elements together. And again, the idea is that these are things that are replicable, that can be done in an urban scale. Diving more into that in terms of the planter boxes, we're looking at modularity, again, showing this is something that can be done. They're just 4x4 modules that are and even the pieces of the modules are modular. So it's really replicable. And then the urban tool, the mobile tool shed has those components as well. The canopy piece of the project is composed of these 4x4 columns with these 2x2 struts, and then just a cardboard, kind of flat piece of cardboard that's cut and then bent to make a really interesting design that kind of filters light and lets light into the space. Some more structural kind of designs showing how the columns are braced into the pallet of the beds. For the beds themselves, the idea is that they are these 4x4 beds, and they have a composting component here, and then a kind of planter area here, and then a bench that goes over the top, and it's kind of like a lid for the compost, but then it can also be removed and rotated to different positions. The walls of the beds are made up of 4x4 pieces and are interlocked at the edges. You can see how they kind of come together and then are doweled together at the corners, with a sliding piece in the middle that separates the beds and the compost. Yeah.
So the tool shed, so there's a list of our materials, but we're working with a farm that has a tiller and a bunch of hand tools that they can't bring from one farm to another, so they have 3 separate farms. And so that's the big problem. So they came to us and asked if we could design something that could not only carry their tiller from one place to another, but kind of push their kind of farm forward. So kind of our steps for construction are, first, we're going to do a metal welded frame of aluminum and steel. And then step 2 is an exterior plywood skin, and then also pegboards inside to hang hand tools and stuff like that. And then we're going to do a logo, and we have graphic designers working with that. And then kind of the next step, and the idea of how this can be something that anyone can do, kind of like a very easy pamphlet that people can take away from our installation, as well as very simple graphic explanations what's going on. That's so much quicker than I thought.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. As soon as our time. Right, so I'm Byron George with Makers Architecture, and so I'll give a brief background of what our installation entails. We wanted to give people an experiential encounter with equity, and we were thinking, you know, the best way in which to do that possibly could be through kind of the vehicle of play. And so what we came up with is how can we design a ball pit? You know, that's playful. How can we design a ball pit that's universally accessible? So we looked at the precedent of Soul Pancake, where 2 strangers are invited into a ball pit, and there's questions on the balls, kind of inviting people into conversation and dialogue. That this, you know, this kind of unique experience kind of creates this safe space with which to share each other's stories. Because, you know, in our every day-to-day environment, you know, we kind of have our own bubbles. We need to get from place to place. There's social norms that kind of make us self-conscious, and you know, sharing, you know, can be a bit difficult. But when you invite play into the situation, play, you know, you become absorbed in it. It's like a conversation almost. The back and forth of play, you become lost in it, and it creates a space where people can encounter each other and their stories, and that we feel is an example of equity. So we're thinking about an inverted ball pit. We're using PVC as the structural component. There's going to be balloons. There's going to be questions on those balloons that range in a spectrum from, you know, icebreakers to questions pertaining to equity in the built environment. There's going to be paneling on the sides that we're using surveying tape to, wow, this is a short amount of time, to panel on. This is kind of a plan of what we're thinking on. There's going to be 2 lines, and there's going to be signage where we invite people to experience this ball pit with the folks in the other part of the line and kind of go through and experience either a mess with the balloons or answer these questions and enter into conversation. So thank you very much.
Okay, good evening. My name is Krista. This is Eugenia and Brooke, and we're with For Culture. So For Culture is the cultural services agency of King County, and we're members of a For Culture task force called Beyond Integrity. And we consist of about 10 professionals who have experience in historic preservation, either through volunteer, professional, or research-based work. And the three of us, and Flo pictured in the slide, we are a design build team responsible for building the installation called I Heart This Place. So I'll keep talking. The inspiration for this project is Candy Chang's Before I Die chalkboards. Our take on the social experiment centers around rethinking how we as society decide what places are worth saving. Architectural significance and integrity are often used to define a landmark. The hypothesis behind this installation is that most people connect to places that are deeply personal reasons beyond architecture.
Additionally, the task force agrees that buildings worth saving from demolition are not necessarily landmarks. And so we're bringing the conversation to the streets by asking the public, the passersby in Pioneer Square, to share why they heart or love different places in Seattle. The first stop is Pioneer Square. The chalkboard will have a life after the Seattle Design Festival and will need to be portable to move to different locations across the city and even the county. So we're using mobile reversible chalkboards to create the boards.
Thanks. At our second planning meeting, we did a mock-up of the size, and initially it was going to be 4 by 6. And there we are, practicing what we would, things you could write in, and I Heart This Place, which would be Pioneer Square. And as we did this, and we, looked to see, we're getting stencils made, and then we're going to spray paint the chalkboard. And we measured our cars and whether a 4 by 6 board would fit, and it would not. And so we decided to do two smaller boards of 3 by 4, and we still think it'll have a nice impact in Pioneer Square, and people with wheelchairs and kids can reach it, and also for those whose English is not the first language, we'll have it translated. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, I'm Ashley. Do you want to switch to the next one? Yeah. So this is an installation that's actually tied to a program that's in the conference. And the concept is to consider what exactly would it mean to design for equity in education. So the installation itself, the group behind it is comprised of folks from Creature, from Civilization, and from SRG Architects, as well as some other contractor firms really thinking about this. We are building this around the concept of third place community. So I have 4 separate spaces across the installation, and it's from, let's say, the micro to macro education space. So education is self, home, this is the self, we can just dive right in. And each of these has to be tied together through a consistent structure. So the Dr. Seuss quotes, this will be an internal, external, what you learn about yourself versus what's projected outside. Think of like Bruce Lee kind of installation here. The second is the home space. So what we're thinking about here and what we're doing is building a life-size exquisite corpse. All of these will be in this C shape. We're going to have live cover art creation and then live text creation. So each of these will be pages of the book. Fully accessible for children, adults, folks in wheelchairs, etc. Third place is the instructional space. So this concept is being in a classroom or being in a virtual classroom to learn something and teach something. So when you walk into this space, we'll have hanging concepts, visuals, different languages, and then externally, you'll be able to place those concepts that you're learning and teach the community on the outside space. And then the final place is a third place. It's a community. And we were thinking about kind of historic literary halls. The concept is a great, good place. We have a kind of a community organizing place. That's also tied with this Dr. Seuss quote. So that's, I think, all I have time for. Oh yeah, and then this is the really fancy picture. Thank you.
Skip real fast.
Close your eyes and express you first. Okay,
I was fast.
you work. Okay. Feet first. You want to go one back? 50. There's a lot. Not just one set of feet first.
Hi, we are the Waterfront Feet First Rumble team. We are doing, hey, look, all these people came. This is great. Hooray. So here's a bunch of people. We're a bunch of architects and landscape architects and artists and marketing gurus who have come together to form a team. And we are working with kind of the Waterfront Symposium and Feet First to kind of make an installation that tells us about the history of our waterfront. So this is our title now, Waterfront, It's About Time. PL Concord is the contractor that we are working with. We are very, very happy to have them. We will be getting donations. They're working on helping us get donations for all of our materials. And this is the team. So far, everybody's been very dedicated and has been coming out week after week after week after week. And we think we have a pretty good design. So okay.
Okay. When during the design rumble, I think the thing that really that we latched onto about the waterfront was the layering of the history of the waterfront and how it's evolved over time. And we wanted to express sort of that evolution of the waterfront over time and thinking about as a key of thinking about what could come in the future. There's this project Trace, which allows people to record their walks along different paths. And one of them, the idea is that people could walk this path along the waterfront as it existed back in the 1800s.
So waterfront, it's about time. We have the 3 points which are current, the 1800s, and then Duwamish period. And so we are going to have 3 transects, if you will, or cuts from the earth showing the different times. And so this would be the Duwamish when the waterfront was the biggest. Biggest. The second would be the 1800s where we cut and filled and then filled in with the wharf. And then currently we are digging the tunnel even though Bertha isn't. And we're going to fill it with material that are representative of that period of time.
Thank you. This is just a kind of a cross-section of the materials that we'll be using. Seeing as we can't bring water in, we'll just be using glass. And then different materials that represent the fill that created the waterfront from the original days.
Our contractor partner has set us up with several build dates on their site. So we'll be coming up this next Saturday, beginning to put our constructs together and get them ready to carry on site for the build day.
Yeah, I hope this is the last picture. I think it is. You guys can look outside instead.
These are visual aids that I brought that will make a little more sense very soon. My name is Dinah. I'm a designer. I'm just going to start. Equity is a big and complex idea. It's a relationship to design, perhaps only complicating how one defines the word or identifies with the concept. This installation, however, intends to be small and straightforward, picking one path within this labyrinthine idea, and that path is about connection and ways in which human beings can relate to each other and design as a means to enhance our community. So upon approaching my installation, you will be prompted to grab a dot and write your name and something beautiful. And you'll see there's an asterisk there that clarifies what that can be. So basically something you connect with that leaves you with some positive feeling. And soliciting a person's name is very intentional. Names are important. Everyone has one. Your name represents a way to identify you independent of any other information other than that you're a human being. Name is democratic in that way, while at the same time being uniquely individual. And although quotidian and seemingly inconsequential, acknowledging someone by their name is an incredibly humanizing gesture. So this represents what sort of the installation will look like. It's basically like a very large easel structure with directions, conceptual text, and you'll put your dot on one side and you'll find another dot on the other side. And similar to your name, what you find beautiful is similarly equalizing and idiosyncratic, and that no matter gender, race, education, even if you understand the beautiful object, it still has this positive effect. And then you'll be prompted to strike a line with the tape. And then over time, hopefully it will be this huge network of lines. And then I'll paint it, remove all the tape and the dots, and you'll have this wonderful art object that hopefully suggests that equity need not be this big idea, but could be small, color, line, a connection. Thanks. Saucy. Okay.
Okay, well, so we're Saucy Studio. We're a group of 5 graduate students from the University of Washington. I'm Keegan, and this is Connor. Our design installation for the block party is called Threshold of Equity. 20 seconds is a long time. So just a quick kind of recap of what our project is about. We believe that the boundaries and thresholds of equity, whether they are social, political, natural, or mental, can be confronted and overcome. We hope that with our installation, we can bring awareness to this idea while creating an interactive individual experience, while uniting through sharing and collaboration into an equal whole. This is a quick sketch for where we are in terms of design development and construction. Originally, we had just had a door. Move quick. Now it's a wall.
Now we have a wall, and we're trying to salvage all our material. So we went to a house that's being demoed, pulled a bunch of 2x4s, and we're going to do the wall out of 2x4s, kind of. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And do a difference in contrast and texture. So the door will be white, pure, have a grid. These holes will be drilled out. And our hope is that people will walk up to the wall, be prompted to speak towards their ideas or interaction with equity, roll these papers up and put them in the door and then walk through the threshold. That's where we're at right now. We're in the process of building, and we're still looking for ideas for what to do with these messages on equity for after the event.
Is it working? Sorry, we're testing things. I'm Trevor Dykstra with the Seattle Design Nerds, and I guess we're going to wait for 40 seconds here for this to start. This year we're doing a big inflatable again. We've gone through a bunch of different variations. Our group's pretty big on just doing it and making it up as we go. So we sort of work our way and do our thesis by the end. We're calling it Refractor at this point. It's made out of triangles. The way we're approaching equity originally was an abstracted idea where like the space moves and your effect affects other people. It's a little bit much for the average person. So really the more equitable thing is to think about it in terms of a multi-use space that can go around the city, and that's our goal. So yeah, here's the thing we built last year in Nord Alley. That was significantly bigger. I think it's about 100 feet long. This will not be that big. But we're going for nicer this year. And our goal is to sort of focus on how else can we use it. So at the festival, it's going to be a place you can hang out filled with a bunch of colored tubes and things. But perhaps it can pop up around the city as a movie, a sidewalk cinema, a performance venue, hangout spot, lecture spot. We're working that out, and part of what we'll do at the block party is actually ask people to inform us about where we should go or what we should do. We have some experience with just sort of popping up illegally everywhere. So this is a slide from our internal thing where we're thinking about height, potentially with banners. It's made out of plastic triangles. But the silver bits you see are space blankets, will be hyper reflective. So you'll get this effect of being in a semi-mirrored space, but also that sort of light dome that you saw in the earlier photos. We think that'll sort of be a nice little play of mirrored and not. Here's us doing our mass production. We've produced about 240 triangles and about, I don't know, who knows, probably twice that many in cardboard to build floors. This is the rough version of the floor. We'll of course cut that down and make it nicer, but that's the flooring. That's about where we're at right now with building. We're actually just putting the sheets together now. So anyway, that's Refractor.
We're smaller, smarter. We are interested in developing a small space based off the size of a parking spot to kind of represent small living in Seattle, or thinking about smaller living. Kind of our breakthrough as of last week was having a contractor who wants to sponsor us, which is Walsh, which is awesome. As of right now, I guess we're just developing the prototype, and what you'll see here is, I think, just some of that stuff we're interested in doing with this prototype, and it's a lot of ideas, and we're still trying to develop what those ideas are and what they can mean for later on down the road. But I guess the main kind of focus is we're interested in creating a module that's deployable by truck, and for Design Fest, we think this thing can be much more transformative and movable and dynamic, as you see in the picture on the left, and then we want this thing to transition, have a life after Design Fest as well. So for parking day, it's going to become more rigid and fixed. I'm going to let Gabby go into the diagram.
So we wanted to take the symbolic shape of home, as you see, and then we wanted to divide it up into a few modules for two reasons. One, convenience of transportation, and two, it as something that's flexible and very interactive for different user groups. So this could be how it could turn out. So in between frames is something that we were going to provide, and we want, how should I say it? the public to interact with it and then finish the project with us. So they would infill between the frames.
Basically, have a set of frames, and then the idea, which we're not sure yet what it is, it could be as simple as string, rope. The people in the public actually come together and help kind of clad the structure in some way. It could be a little bit more involved where they actually can help kind of accordion this thing out or let it change or flex, whether it be plastic sheets or whatnot. But we're not sure what that is, so it's something we're developing. And I guess the next phase is kind of thinking about what is the geometry. We've been looking at the kind of gable style house, but is it something that the geometry actually climbs and changes to say that it might be thinking about a loft space at the end, or is it that the one on the very right is kind of the almost traditional gable but done in a more kind of modern abstract way? And I guess the final piece is that we have donated Doug fir, which is the brown wood you see in the actual rendering, and as well as 2x4 that the contractor is interested in helping us actually build out. So what might happen is that we have this kind of Doug fir and 2x4 structure, and then the infill becomes either cloth or something else in between.
Okay, so we are Market Share. Market Share is an organization aimed at creating an international street food market in Seattle that empowers immigrant and migrant refugee communities. Mallet is our contractor. Okay, so Market Share sort of as an organization has a couple of layers. At once they're trying to make a market community within the Seattle that doesn't currently exist, and that's a great amenity that we could all enjoy, but that's going to serve as a vehicle to give these immigrant and migrant refugee communities an opportunity and a way to sort of empower them to help them get here, and then they'll give them a way to service their own livelihood. So we wanted to create something that invoked your own empathy with that story. So you're going to, through these kind of interlocked C-shaped structures, map your own immigrant story, because everybody came here from some kind of trajectory against those current trajectories. And then eventually you'll have this big interactive mess of people's stories that are kind of coming together to build the actual built form when it's said and done.
In terms of structure, it would be mostly just 2x4s. So right now we have plexiglass as the graphic component, where we'll have the maps and information on the fellows, which Market Share has helped and helped develop their business. And they have food trucks right now, which would actually be in the night market, not too far away from the installation. This is almost finalized. So yeah, these are the two C shapes, and they'll have a mesh. So it'll be 2x4 plexiglass mesh. So you can tie your string to the mesh, which would correspond to your family story. So here's a draft of the graphics that would go on the outside, which you would be facing the mall. And you'd have stories of the fellows and their pictures and where, like, what they sell, who they are, stuff about Market Share as well. The inside would be where you would like the market to be, because the ultimate goal of this is to have enough participation and excitement over building a market in Seattle, an international market, which we don't really have. So here's a quick rendering of it. So we would have the fellow stories, their immigrant story already mapped out in the installation with instructions to put your own. So at the end of the day, hopefully it'll become a yarn or a thread mess of some sort. I think we're almost done with finalizing it. So I think that's it for now.
Cool.
That's the last slide.
You want to stop?
Hi all, good to see you again. We are a good group of designers, architects, and interactive designers collaborating with the Tasker Center for Accessible Technology at the UW, TCAT. We are trying to help them help them design a scenario that they've been working with for 6 months with children with spinal injuries and other people with differences in accessibility. So it's been quite a challenge, but I think we're getting somewhere. Annette, that leads the program, is looking for a round table to some degree to have these sessions every 2 weeks at the UW, and they don't have that setting yet. So we are trying to design something so that they can use and can be adjustable in different, throughout the time that they do the exercises. At the same time, we want a universal design for the festival itself. So marrying the two, it's one of the biggest challenges, and of course schedule. So it has to be modular for many reasons. We went from a circular to an hexagon, and basically we have these 3 tables that sit on a sort of a podium, and the idea here in the festival is a little bit different. People will access it inside and outside, so it's not about people with disabilities, but it's kind of having everybody work together and play. So we're working on the games and taking hints from, of course, whatever the history of games offers us. Design a maze, design something around the ball, design another thing around the ball. So the common denominator is the ball, basically, in all these things. If you guys have anything to add. I mean, working the top and working the base component, it's the biggest challenges because of the afterlife of the project. So we might end up designing something for the festival and then a version 2.0 for Annette to use in her space. Still trying to understand how we can use the best of the resources to make it happen, and who can follow up with her to realize some of her dream, I think. So yeah, simple games. I mean, some have to do with, it's basically, it doesn't come through this, but it's basically getting a triangle, a rectangle, and a circle, and creating patterns in all of this. So still working throughout them, and we're testing what the results can be. It's not about winning something; it's about bringing everybody to play in the end. The nice feature that I'm going to hand the microphone to Georgie is basically this moving. And you can talk about it.
Yeah, the main challenge is the flexibility and the movement of the table. It's a moving table which will tilt on a center, well, on this point, and by manipulating the lean of the board of the table, balls and different kind of objects, fluid or sand, could move around. Now these kids are limited in very different ways. Wheelchairs are different heights, so this table is adjustable in many ways, in height, in tilt, so that not just the play amount, which is about 4 degrees plus minus, but the whole table could be set up like a vertical position or even further, give a great play effect for those kids who could not move around. So this way, the table will move around them, give them the effect they could see in. Also, part of the program will be some of the kids who could not even sit up and look into the game will have like a periscope, a wide-angle periscope, small little unit we can attach to the chair, so they can see without losing any of the visual field. And the other effect is that the team working on is the see-through version of this table, where it's built of plexiglass or flex.
Yeah, the idea is that we'll have people, down and up, and they can all see what's happening, basically. So we're studying how much of plywood we can perforate and still, combine the game and the support. So all of that. Thank you.
I know we come to the end of these slides, but is Miller Hayashi here?
Thank you. I think he must turn around. It looks not that awful.
We could go through that slide. But, do you want to see
Did-
it?
Yeah. So the online audience, this is a run through of Miller Hayashi's installation real quick. And that's it. Did we miss anybody else? No? Are there any questions for Matt, Paul, or I about what's going to happen at the block party? Everybody's aware they have to be there at 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. No rain or shine. So even if it's like this and there will be nobody there to see our stuff, we'll hang out and get drunk in a tent or something. It's happened once before. A couple years ago, it was miserable, and we actually sort of just gave up at Sunday about 4 o'clock. But in general, plan on being there a full day. And usually, if it's sunny, there's a lot of people. So
Tear down on that as well.
Oh yeah. We didn't really talk about tear down. Tear down after 6 p.m. on Sunday evening. Plan on that. If you can be out of there that night, that'd be awesome. But we do have a permit for the area until 1 p.m. tomorrow, Sunday, and you can get out then. I see a question. Yeah, those are. We can work that. If they're going to do that, let's talk between those 5 groups. We did that last year. It would be on Monday rather than at night because it's just too much stuff. There's very little traffic there, but on Sunday night, but it's just, there's 100 people involved. So if it's something like that where you need a truck to pull it off the site, like pull in, that might have to be staged out. So how about, I think you all have my email and you all have Paul and Matt's. Just email me if that's something. Really, it should be just for those 5 teams. Everybody else should hand carry. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, so there will be. Are we talking about planning it? So there will be photographers shooting everything. We have volunteers. I'll take the 1,000 photos, and 2 of them will be good enough to use. So those will be around. There will be photos. Last year we tried to stage it out where each installation had a time where their team could be there and someone would take a photo. We can try that again this year, but I think it's just in terms of figuring out coordinating that. If it's something you want, maybe send us an email and we'll see what we can do. Otherwise, there will be sort of coverage of everything. But if you are taking your own photos, you want to put them on Instagram or Flickr or Twitter, make sure you use the hashtag that we've got for the festival. We'll kind of keep track, try to pool them all together. Any other things?
See how it goes when everyone's adding and exceeding to all of these installations.
All right. Well, if there's no more questions, enjoy the drinks. Thanks for coming.